Hi class, welcome to another chapter. We're on chapter 9 now. Chapter 9 is entitled Rational Expressions and Rational Equations. So today what we're going to be talking about specifically is multiplying rational expressions. Now a rational expression is kind of a fancy name for a fraction. You guys did a lot of work with fractions in elementary school. We're now going to do a lot of fractions in this unit, but now these fractions have radicals in the denominator. So variables in the denominator. So that's kind of the theme of this lesson. Now as we're going to be working through a lot of these, one thing that's going to be kind of coming over and over and over again is factoring and reducing. So remember those two words, factoring and reducing, because we're going to be doing a lot of that in this lesson. So for this first one, we have a monomial. It's a fraction with a numerator and a denominator. Now we're going to reduce as much as we possibly can. We're going to simplify this. So 21/14, 7 goes into both of those. 7 goes into here 3 times, and 7 goes into here twice. 21/14 is the same thing as 3 halves. Now remember our rules when we did in chapter 5, when we have common bases and we divide, we subtract our exponents. So 2 minus 2 is 0, so we just have x to the 0, which basically these just disappear. X squared divided by x squared is 1. And y cubed divided by y to the first is y to the second in the numerator. So now we're just going to write down what we have left. It's 3y squared in the numerator divided by 2 in the denominator. So that's how you do problem number 1. Problem number 2. What we're first going to do, you can bring this exponent down on all these first, but it might get a little bit messy. But you could do that and you'd still get the right answer. I might recommend reducing this first. So 5/10 is the same thing as 1/2. X squared and x to the fourth make it x squared in the denominator. The y's don't cancel at all or reduce, so you just have a y left in the numerator. And then you have z cubed divided by z, which is the same thing as z squared in the numerator. Now we're going to square all of this. So when we square a rational expression, you learned this in chapter 5, you're going to square the numbers. So 1 squared is 1, and 2 squared is 4. And now with the letters, you're going to multiply their exponents. When you have a power raised to a power, you multiply their exponents together. So y to the first squared is y to the second. Z squared squared is z to the fourth. You multiply 2 times 2. And in the bottom, x squared squared is x to the fourth. So our answer is 1 y squared z to the fourth over 4 x to the fourth. Alright, looking at number 3, when you had a problem like this back in elementary school, 2/3 multiplied by, let's say, 15/8. Whenever you multiply fractions together, you multiply the numerators by each other, you get a number, and you multiply the denominators by each other, and you get a number. So you got 30/24, which that then reduces to, 6 goes in both of those, 5/4 times. So your answer is 5/4. So your strategy is to multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators. But you also learned something else. You learned something that was called cross-reducing. What that is, refresher, you can take 2 and 8 and reduce those two numbers, which is 1/4. Same thing with 15/3 to get 5 and 1. So what's our answer now? Multiply from left to right, 5. Multiply from left to right, and you get 4. So you get 5/4 in the same way that you did earlier. So what I recommend is that you cross-reduce first before you multiply straight across. So let's cross-reduce first with this one. That's going to be our strategy. 8/16 is 1/2. 7/21 is 1/3. X divided by x cubed is x squared. Y squared and y cubed makes y to the first. Now, class, you've done all of the reducing that you can do, so now we're just going to multiply straight across. In the numerator, all we have left is 1s. In the denominator, you have 3 times 2, which is 6. and you have y and x squared. We always usually write this in alphabetical order. Excel math certainly does, so make sure you guys get in the habit of doing that as well. So x squared comes first, and the y comes second. 1 over 6x squared y. Why don't you guys pause the video and try number 4. Number 4. Hopefully you did this. 5/15 is the same thing as 1/3. You're cross-canceling here. 24/12 is 2 over 1. A to the 4th and a cubed makes an a in the numerator. C squared, oh, that doesn't cancel with anything. Let's see here. B divided by b, that reduces. And I think that's all we can do. So now let's multiply the numerator. We have 1 and a and 2 and c squared. So we have 1a and then, 1 times 2 is 2ac cubed. You have c to the first here and c squared right here. So with common bases, you would add up their exponents. 1 plus 2 is 3. So you have 2ac cubed in the numerator. In the denominator, you have 3b squared. 2ac cubed divided by 3b squared. Okay, for number 5. First of all, I want to tell you something that a lot of students try to do, and this is incorrect. They try to take, like, this y cancels with this y squared to make a y right here. That, class, is not mathematically okay. The reason for that is that factors can be reduced with other factors, but a factor involves multiplying. So this is multiplied by this, and that's multiplied by this. So whenever you have a positive or negative sign, this isn't a factor all by itself, okay? Because it has a plus sign with it. The whole factor is y plus 7. So if you're going to factor something, if you're going to reduce something, you have to reduce the whole factor. So you can take this y plus 7 and reduce it with this y plus 7, because those are both factors. However, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot reduce this and this. The reason because this isn't a factor. The factor is the whole thing, y squared minus 9. That can be only reduced with other y squared minus 9s. So because we don't have that, our answer is left with this in the numerator, 3y, and this in the denominator, y squared minus 9. Now on a test, class, I would accept your answer that looks like this. Excel math usually won't have this as their answer. The reason for that is because whenever you can factor, you need to do so. Excel math, that's their philosophy. So this right here is the same thing as the difference of two squares. So that factors down into y minus 3 times y plus 3. So still nothing else can be reduced, so we leave our answer like this. So Excel math has their answers like this. I'm fine with either way on a test. So you guys can pick which way you want to answer it on a test. Number 6. So as I said at the very beginning of the video, whenever you can factor, that's going to be the first step that you're going to do, because once you factor, now you can cancel any factors that are similar. So not only factoring with trinomials, but taking out a GCF as well. That's going to be important. So you could take a GCF out of the numerator of 5 times the quantity y minus 2. You can take a GCF out of the denominator. That GCF is 15, and not only 15, but 15y. Now we're left with y minus 2. So now that we've factored as far as we can possibly go, let's cancel any common terms. So y minus 2 and y minus 2. This 5 and 15 reduces to 1/3. So what we have left in the numerator is a 1, and what we have left in the denominator is a 3 and a y. 1 over 3y is the correct answer for problem number 6. Problem number 7. Once again, why don't you guys try this one on your own and see what you come up with. So, once again, you're going to take out a GCF out of both the numerator and the denominator. The numerator, you could take out an a to the 4th, so all we have left is b minus 2. In the denominator, you can take out an a cubed, And this one, you're left with a 2 and a negative b. Now I wonder if some of you maybe did this. Reduce, reduce. You can't do that just yet. The reason for that is this is a positive b and this is a negative b. This is a negative 2 and this is a positive 2. So they're not quite the same thing. One thing that you should always try to recognize and always maybe tackle first is to always get your variable positive. The numbers, it's okay to have negative, but try to get those variables to be positive. So if you want to do that, you can factor out a negative 1. Whenever you factor out a negative 1, it just changes the sign on what's ever in the binomial. So if you take out a negative 1, now you can take out a negative 1 times a cubed, which is a negative a cubed instead of a positive a cubed. Now you're left with a positive b and a minus 2. The signs change. This is now a positive b. This is now a negative 2. Now, class, these two are the same thing. B minus 2 and b minus 2, those reduce. So now in the numerator, I'm just going to rewrite this because it's getting a little bit messy. In the numerator, you have this a to the 4th. And in the denominator, you have this negative a cubed. So let's reduce a little bit more. A to the 4th divided by a cubed is a positive a on top. So you have a divided by a negative 1. And when you say a is divided by a negative 1, what's anything divided by a negative 1? It's just a negative whatever in the numerator. So our answer on this one is a negative a. Kind of a tricky one. Let's all try number 8 together. Let's take out a GCF of 2x squared. So now we're left with x and a positive 3. In the denominator, because this is a negative 6 and this is a negative 18, let's take out a negative GCF. So a negative 6x. That would make both terms in my binomial positive, which is a positive x and a positive 3. Now that we have successfully taken out our GCF, let's reduce common factors. So x plus 3 and x plus 3. X squared and x, that reduces to x to the 1st, and 2/6 reduces to 1/3. So what do we have left in the numerator? We have an x term. What do we have left in the denominator? We have a negative 3. We have x divided by a negative 3. Now just to let you know, class, once again, I would be okay if you answered this on a test. I would count it 100% correct. However, I think Excel Math always likes their negative signs in the numerator. So this would be the same thing as a negative x in the numerator and a positive 3 in the denominator. It's kind of like saying a negative 6 divided by a positive 5 is the same thing as a positive 6 divided by a negative 5. It's really the same thing. Excel Math just prefers to have their negative answers in the numerator. So, either one of those I would accept on a test. Alright, number 9. This is the one that can be very frustrating but very enjoyable too, to be honest with you. Whenever you see a trinomial, class, I want you to immediately think of the F word. And that F word is being FOIL. Make sure you try to FOIL, not FOIL, but factor. Try to factor each and every one of these. Okay? So whenever you see a trinomial, think 2 parentheses. There we are. Bottom, 2 parentheses. Parentheses and parentheses. So if you don't like factoring, this is going to be miserable. If you kind of like factoring, this is very, very enjoyable. So it takes a little bit of practice, but nothing too bad. We have x times x with a negative 3 and a negative 2. That gives us x squared minus 6x minus 6. So it just takes a little bit of practice. X times x with a positive 3 and a positive 1. X times x, positive 2, positive 1 on the top right. And on the bottom right, you have x and x with a negative 5 and a negative 3. Once you've successfully factored each part of your fractions, now you just take out your marker and you say, hey-ya, to anything that can be reduced. Reduce, reduce. X minus 3, gone. Cross-canceling any other terms. You have x plus 1 and x plus 1. Done, son. And that is all we have left for reducing. So now we're just going to multiply straight across. We're left with this term and this term. X minus 2 times x plus 2. That is what we're left with in the numerator. In the denominator, we're left with x plus 3 and x minus 5. So this is divided by x plus 3 and x minus 5. This, class, is the correct answer for problem number 9. Now, just to let you know, I always like to give you some tips for Excel math. They might say that the numerator... Did I do something wrong here? My notes say something else. Rats. This should be a positive 2. Stink. X times x is x squared. A positive 2x minus 3x is a negative x. And a negative 3 times a positive 2 is a negative 6. Sorry, class, this should be a positive 2 right here. So that would make this a positive 2 right here. So now Excel math, sometimes they answer theirs. Once again, I would be perfectly fine if you left this on a test. But x plus 2 times x plus 2 is the same thing as x plus 2 quantity squared. So if you see that in the numerator with the same denominator, make sure you recognize that that's the exact same thing. So now, problem number 10. Why don't you guys try this one on your own? It's going to be a big skill to make sure you factor everything correctly, but why don't you guys pause the video and try this one. Top left, you're going to get this. 3x and x with a positive 3 and a positive 2. Hopefully you saw that in the denominator on the bottom left, you can take out a 4 first. So now you have x squared minus x minus 2. First take out that GCF, and now we can factor further to make it x and x with a negative 2 and a positive 1. Same thing with the top right. Hopefully you saw that you could take out a GCF of 2. So you're left with x squared minus 3x plus 2. And now once you've taken out that GCF, you're left with 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 1. And then in the bottom right, you have x plus 3 times x minus 1. Alright, let's have some fun. We're going to say x minus 1 cancels with x minus 1. X minus 2 reduces with x minus 2. X plus 3 reduces with x plus 3. And we have 2/4, which reduces to 1/2. And I believe that is the end of our reducing. So what do we have left in the numerator? We have 3x plus 2. 3x plus 2. And what do we have left in our denominator? We have 2 times x plus 1. 2 times the quantity x plus 1. 3x plus 2 divided by 2 times the quantity x plus 1. So as you can see, class, what we're doing is we're simplifying. Doesn't this look much simpler than this big, huge mess of garbage? Right? We're reducing it significantly to make something quite overwhelming look quite a bit less overwhelming. And that's the skill here. Each and every one of you are going to see a problem like this on Excel Math, and it is a beast. So watch very closely on how you solve this one. Your skill is again going to be factor, factor, factor whenever possible. The numerator is the difference of two squares, which is x minus 2 times x plus 2. Now in the denominator, like I said earlier in the video, always try to get your exponent positive. Sorry, not your exponent, your variable positive. So factor out a negative 1, and that way you will get a positive x cubed and a minus 8. Now all of you saw, hopefully you all see that you have the sum and difference of two cubes formulas on your sheet. This right here is the difference of two cubes, which factors into a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. So if that's the case, our a value is the cubed root of this number. The cubed root of x cubed is x. b is the cubed root of this number, which is 2. Now we're just going to put x and 2 into this formula. So we still have this negative 1 on the outside. And now we're going to be left with a minus b, which is x minus 2, times the quantity. It's going to be a trinomial now, a squared, which is x squared, plus ab, so it would be plus 2 times x, which is 2x, plus b squared, which is 2 squared. And 2 squared is 4. So make sure you recognize that this is either the sum of two cubes or the difference of two cubes. Now you can cancel any common factors. So your x minus 2's, they are gone. That's all that we can reduce. So our answer is this in the numerator with the negative 1 and the x squared plus 2x plus 4 in the denominator. Excel math answers it very silly though, in my opinion. They want the negative 1 to the numerator, so you're going to have a negative times the quantity, x plus 2 in the numerator, sorry. So you don't have c, you don't have b. It's either going to be a or d because that's a negative x plus 2. Now as you can see, you have the 4 as being positive right here. You have a positive 2x, and you have a positive x cubed. So that's how they want you to answer on this one. So on this one, the correct answer is letter D, because it's a positive 2x, not a negative 2x. So our correct answer on this one is going to be letter D. You're all going to have a problem in Excel math that has one problem, that is the sum or difference of two cubes. Now you know how to solve that one. Let me know if you have any other questions or if you need any other further guidance on any of them. Our homework assignment is objectives 97 through 99.